My daughter's fiancé demanded $50,000 for a wedding or no wedding at all. My name is Anthony Romano, and what Preston Whitfield Ford didn't know was that his family's $4.2 million mansion was mortgaged through my bank. He thought he was bullying some broke community banker. 24 hours later, he was staring at foreclosure papers. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. I stayed silent through his racist jokes. I nodded politely when he threatened to cancel my daughter's wedding, and then I made a decision that would destroy his entire world. If you've ever been underestimated because of where you come from, stick around. You're going to want to hear how this ends. It started 8 months earlier, the day Anna brought Preston home to Federal Hill. I watched the disappointment cross his face the second he stepped out of his BMW and saw the ROAS, the small yards, the working families. I was in my Saturday clothes, jeans, an old Providence College t-shirt, my 1995 Honda Civic with 240,000 mi parked next to his spotless car. "So you're Anna's father," he said, extending a manicured hand, his Hermes belt worth more than most people's weekly paycheck. "Anna tells me you work in finance. I work at a bank." Yes. What Anna didn't know was that I owned that bank. He looked around our modest living room, the worn furniture, the family photos, Anna's Stanford diploma on the mantel. "Stanford," he said, studying it, "must have been quite an investment for your family. Merit scholarships help so much, don't they?" There were no scholarships. I'd paid her tuition in full, $320,000, without touching a cent of my real assets. Anna thought I'd scraped by. She had no idea Stanford's yearly cost was less than what my company made in an hour. "Anna's family is hosting an engagement party at the yacht club," Preston added. "The Newport Country Club, 4 generations." He was marking territory, old money versus whatever he assumed we were. A few weeks later, Anna called me over, visibly shaken. Preston had found the perfect venue. The Chandler at Cliffwalk, $1,500 a head, 200 guests, $300,000 total. "My family has connections. He said we could get your side down to 50,000. Like he was doing us a favor, and if we couldn't make it work by Friday, he said they'd have to seriously reconsider the timeline." An ultimatum wrapped in urgency. $50,000 or no wedding. "Your father probably makes $60,000 a year," Preston told Anna. "Right in front of me. Asking him for 50 is already generous considering the proportional investment. 60,000 a year. If only he knew that number was what my company made in under 3 hours. But the money wasn't the point. Preston had just told me exactly how he saw us. A charity case being graciously allowed into his world, provided we paid the entry fee. That night, I called my compliance department. It's not unusual for a bank president to request an account review. By Thursday, I had the full picture of the Whitfield family's finances, Preston's trust fund, his father's ventures, and the mortgage on their 8-bedroom Newport Colonial, $4.2 million, financed through my bank. And buried in that contract were character clauses most borrowers never read twice. Friday at 5, Preston called for his answer. I was in my office at Romano Financial Headquarters. The chair he assumed belonged to someone else entirely. "What do you think my family brings to this partnership?" I asked him. He stumbled. Every family has unique strengths such as silence, then defensiveness. I turned his own logic back on him, asked about his family's finances the way he'd assessed mine. He got angry fast. "My family's situation is none of your business, but mine is yours." He tried to recover, tried diplomacy, tried threats. Finally, I asked him one question that mattered. "Do you love my daughter enough to marry her if her family had no money at all?" The silence that followed told me everything. That weekend, Anna and I had lunch near Harvard Square. She looked exhausted. She told me about Preston's mother asking what I did for work, about the disappointed look when she said community banking, about a judge's wife at a dinner party remarking how wonderful you're getting an education. That must be such a priority for families like yours, about feeling more and more like she was auditioning for a role in Preston's life instead of living her own. "What would happen?" I asked her. "If you just showed up as yourself, Anna Romano from Federal Hill, whose father drives an old Honda. I don't know if Preston would still want to marry me," she said. That honesty broke my heart and it made up my mind. My phone rang. Legal? Confirming the Whitfield mortgage had clear grounds for acceleration. I told them to prepare everything for Monday. I didn't tell Anna, not yet. The engagement party invitation arrived on cream cardstock. Cocktails at the Newport Country Club. Jacket required. Anna asked me to wear my navy suit. Even she was worried about appearances. I drove my Honda past the Whitfield estate, the one mortgaged through my bank, and pulled up to the yacht club. The valet looked at my car like it was contaminated, but took the keys anyway. Inside was dark wood, brass, oil paintings of men who'd never worked a day in their lives. A room where membership was inherited, not earned. Preston's father, Reginald, shook my hand like he was measuring my worth. His mother, Catherine, eyed my department store suit with barely hidden disdain. "Which institution?" Reginald asked. "Romano Financial, not familiar with it." One of Preston's friends laughed. "Wait, is that the branch next to the pizza place on Federal Hill? Banking in ethnic neighborhoods must be interesting clientele." People actually laughed. Anna's face burned red. Reginald mused about advancement opportunities in community banking being limited. Catherine mentioned Anna's scholarships. An older woman dripping in diamonds leaned in and suggested a venue in Cranston that did wonderful ethnic weddings. Reginald reminisced about some other family's daughter who married a Portuguese fisherman and had her reception on paper plates. "Sometimes simple is best," he said, and the group chuckled at my daughter's expense. Then Preston, raising his voice for the room to hear, said his family and mine were still working out logistics because of my financial constraints, and then low enough that only a few caught it, clear enough that I did. "Your immigrant family needs to learn their place in America." I pulled out my phone and texted Maria, my sister, VP of Operations. "Yacht Club. Now bring the Whitfield files. It's time." "You know," I said to the group, "you're right about one thing. 50,000 is quite a lot of money, especially when you're about to lose 4.2 million. The laughter died. 10 seconds of confused silence before Reginald managed. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Maria walked in with 2 board members and a leather portfolio. "Mr. Romano, the emergency board meeting is complete. We have authorization for the Whitfield account action." She turned to the group. "Mr. Reginald Whitfield, I'm Maria Romano, Vice President of Operations at Romano Financial. We've held your mortgage for 8 years. Catherine's glass trembled in her hand. "There must be a mistake." "No mistake," said the chairman beside Maria. "Mr. Romano, the board has approved your requested action. Clear character clause violations." Preston blinked. "I don't understand. You said you work at Romano Financial." "I don't work at Romano Financial," I said. "I own it." You could have heard ice melting 3 tables away. Anna stared at me like I'd announced I was from another planet. Maria laid it out plainly. 80 branches, $2 billion in assets, founded 26 years ago on a $10,000 loan. The Whitfield mortgage, $4.2 million, now in violation of its character clauses due to discriminatory conduct, documented that very evening. The comments about ethnic neighborhoods, the paper plate joke, and Preston's own words about immigrant families learning their place. Reginald tried to bluster. "You can't call a loan over a social conversation." Actually, Maria said, "Given tonight's statements, this bank considers it a clear violation of the community standards your family agreed to in writing." She added one more thing. Preston's $600,000 trust fund was also managed through our private banking division, and given his conduct, it was being frozen pending character review. Preston's phone slipped out of his hand and shattered on the marble floor. "Anna," he said, desperate now, "your father is overreacting. This is all a misunderstanding." "The misunderstanding," Anna said, her voice rising with a strength I hadn't heard in months, "was thinking I needed to apologize for my family to be worthy of yours." She turned to me. "Dad, how long have you been planning this?" "Since the moment he said my immigrant family needed to learn its place." She nodded, then turned back to Preston and pulled the ring off her finger. She set it on the nearest table. "We're done." Reginald tried to salvage things, calling it emotional, calling it extortion. Maria calmly reminded him it was contract enforcement. His son had demanded money from a family he considered inferior, made discriminatory remarks on record, and the bank simply held them to what they'd signed. 24 hours to produce $4.2 million in certified funds, or the estate would enter foreclosure. Preston's law firm, the one his father had bragged about, had already made clear by morning they wanted no association with him. "This house has been in my family for 4 generations," Reginald said, his composure finally cracking. "And my family's been in America for 1 generation," I told him. "The difference is we built something. You just inherited it." As Anna and I walked out, I heard Catherine, shrill and panicked, telling her husband to call the bank president. "Call someone who could fix this." I turned back once. "Mrs. Whitfield, I am the bank president." The next morning, over coffee in my kitchen, Anna asked me why I'd never told her the truth. I reminded her of a promise I made her back when she was applying to colleges, that she'd have to earn her way through hard work, and she did. Every grade, every achievement, entirely her own. The only difference was who paid the bills. I didn't want her to be Anthony Romano's daughter. I wanted her to be Anna Romano. Preston was a test he didn't know he was taking. I told her, I needed to see if he'd love and respect you, no matter what he thought our status was. "He failed spectacularly," she said. Her phone had already buzzed 20 times that morning. Calls, texts, apologies. She didn't answer a single one. Not until Preston called directly, pleading for a chance to explain, to meet for coffee, to talk her father into reversing the foreclosure. "No, Preston," she said, calm and clear. "You showed me exactly who you are when you thought there'd be no consequences. You don't get to apologize your way out of that." She hung up and blocked his number. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Scary," she said, "but free." The local news picked up the story that afternoon. A foreclosure sign planted on the lawn of one of Newport's oldest estates. A law firm quietly cutting ties with its disgraced associate. The story of an immigrant-founded bank that put its values above a wealthy client's business. By the end of the week, 5 other Newport families had reached out to Romano Financial, asking about refinancing. Word travels fast when people learn an institution actually stands behind what it says. 3 weeks later, Anna and I had dinner at Russo's on Federal Hill, the very restaurant Preston had once dismissed as beneath his standards. The owner refused to let us pay. "Any man who doesn't see what he had in your daughter isn't worth the marinara on his shoes," he told me. Anna was laughing again, the tension gone from her face for the first time in months. She told me the Italian-American Business Association had invited her to speak at their scholarship banquet about succeeding without compromising who you are. I told her Romano Financial had just established a $2 million scholarship fund for first-generation college students. "You did that because of Preston," she said. "I did it because every kid who works as hard as you did deserves the same shot. No matter what neighborhood they're from or what car their parents drive," she squeezed my hand. "I'm proud to be your daughter, not because of the money, because of who you are." The Whitfield estate sold at auction that week for $3.8 million, enough to cover the loan and legal fees, leaving the family with almost nothing. Preston called once more through his family's lawyer to apologize, to say he finally understood he'd been wrong. "Understanding you were wrong," Anna told him, "isn't the same as being right. Some mistakes don't come with a second chance." Driving home that night, past the Romano Financial branch on Federal Hill, the neighborhood where I'd learned that character outweighs inheritance every single time, I thought about the lesson Preston Whitfield would spend the rest of his life absorbing. In this country, you don't inherit respect, you earn it. And the people who underestimate you because of where you come from will always eventually regret it. If you've ever been written off because of your background, your accent, your car, or your neighborhood, tell me in the comments, because I promise you, just like the Whitfields learned the hard way, the people who count you out are the ones who end up counting the cost.